Welcome to Brewsers, a podcast about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. I am your host, Freddie John, and today we talk to the Black Wolf, Jacob Tao. We talk all about how he got into the world of wrestling, what the future holds, and so much more. This is such a fun conversation. Jacob is definitely a big man on the rise when it comes to the world of pro wrestling, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds for him. You're going to find out so much more about him in a second, but first, make sure to sign up for our newsletter. It comes out twice a week. You get even more information about our guests. You get fun facts, and you get to find out what's happening with your favorite podcast, all about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. So, without further ado, here is the Black Wolf, Jacob Tao. I would like to welcome to the show the Black Wolf, Jacob Toa. How are you doing today, sir?
Pretty good, man. How about yourself?
Doing well. So for those listening, kind of paint us a word picture. Where are you at? What's going on around you?
So I'm based out of Corpus Christi, Texas, a little south of San Antonio, North Laredo. It's pretty hot right now. Pretty hot. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm up here in the DFW area, and it is also very hot up here. But you guys are probably far more humid than we are.
Oh yeah. Pretty much. It can be 100 outside, but it feels like 120.
Right.
It's pretty rough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny when I hear people from the north like, "Oh, it's so hot." I'm like, I don't think you understand what like 90 days with 100-degree temperatures like.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I'll let you have it.
Yeah. Like it's just warming up for them.
Exactly. Well, it's funny. I was in New York City, and like they complain about the heat, and I'm like, really? And then I got there, and it was WrestleMania time. Oh God, however, 2019, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's hot because all of the heat is just bouncing off the concrete and then just hitting you. And I was like, okay, now I understand why they think it's too hot.
Yeah. Actually, I was supposed to go and play college football up in North Dakota.
Oh.
And I went for the tour, did all my stuff, and I realized I'm not made out for the cold. I'm not made out for the cold. I'm like, yeah, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. And then I went to El Paso to go check out UTEP, and I was like, yeah, it's hot, but this is a different kind of hot. I don't think I can do this either.
Yeah. Where'd you end up playing football?
So I tried to play there. I ended up trying to play there in North Dakota, but I couldn't pass the physical because of my knees. My freshman year of high school, I was in powerlifting, and I tore both my ACLs.
Ugh.
So it took me out, and then I got to do wrestling over there, so that was fun.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
North Dakota cold is no thank you. There's definitely a time of the year I will never go there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's I try to stay anywhere away from the north.
Yeah. Yeah, my brother's up in between like Michigan and Toronto in the Canada area, and I'm just like, well, I will definitely not be seeing you in the winter because no, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Like down here, we have a bunch of winter Texans, so you're slowly starting to see people leave as of right now.
Yeah, and that's fair. They summer somewhere else, and then they come back here for the quote unquote winter fall time.
Yeah.
Well, as much people want to hear us talk about weather and the different parts of the country, they're probably here to talk about, a little bit of pro wrestling. We'll get into that here in a second. Yeah. Well, so what is your earliest memory of pro wrestling?
So my earliest memory of pro wrestling, people tell me I'm crazy. Because I tell them my earliest memory of wrestling was Bill Goldberg versus Sting in WCW.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, well, you're only 26. I'm like, yeah, I don't understand how I remember that, but I can remember that. I remember sitting in my house with my brother, and we're sitting there watching WCW. And I'm like, he's like, dude, there's no way you remember that. He thought it had to be a tape. I'm like, well, whatever it was, that's my earliest recollection of wrestling.
What was it about you, or was it about that kind of grabbed you? And like, I'm obviously, did you continue to watch afterwards, or was it kind of like an in and out situation?
So I did. It was more. I would say, I guess I was too young to kind of remember after that. But what I do clearly remember was getting back into it when the whole Umaga versus John Cena feud was starting, or like the early, the start of the Thugonomics. Yeah, I was wearing a chain with the lock around my neck. Yeah. Yeah, I was one of those. I was raised with a John Cena.
Now that he's actually said he's going to do his basically his 2025 is going to be his retirement tour. I really hope he does bring back the Doctor of Thugonomics with the chain,
Yeah.
the lock, the even like the spinner chain, like something.
Yeah, at least one more time. Like we got to see it one more time.
Yeah, hit us with those greatest hits. Carlito's still there. They could do something. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like his last match almost has to be against Randy Orton, but I guess it doesn't have to be. But
See, and I feel the same way. I feel the exact same way. It has to be Randy Orton. I couldn't really see anything other than that.
yeah, I mean Edge isn't there, so it can't be Edge. So I think
Yeah, exactly.
Kurt Angle obviously is long retired, and Randy's the only one that makes sense. So much so that like they had a feud to where they had to have a stipulation at one of their matches that they wouldn't face each other again for however long. And I was like,
Yeah,
that's because you guys just slam them against each other, every month. This is ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. It got to a. I remember it getting to a point where I was a little kid. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of getting tired of seeing.
Yeah.
And now that I think about it, I'm like, man, those are the good days for me.
Right. Which is funny because that was like somewhat of a lull period in the WWE.
Yeah,
But I mean,
yeah,
Cena was obviously the man on top and so forth. But when it came to like everyone was almost a little generic. There were some people that were standouts, but for the most part, it was, Cena, Orton, Batista, Edge was on his way up, and then everybody else was kind of almost interchangeable because they either were coming out or coming back in, or
yeah,
injured or not injured. It was such a weird time in the WWE at that time.
yeah. See, and I was at work earlier, and I was watching old videos of Dusty Rhodes and the whole
Oh yeah,
WWF, WCW, and I was looking. I'm like, man, there were so many gimmicks back then, and now it's kind of not that people don't have a gimmick, but it's kind of like a lost art in the profession of
I had
being
this con
totally out there.
yeah, I had this conversation. Oh, I think it was PJ Black, and he was thinking he was asking me, he's like, "Do you think the art of having a character is gone?" And I was like, not really. It's just you're not seeing it as much. I mean, like you were saying back then, everybody had a gimmick, everybody was doing something.
Yeah,
And now, like the most gimmicks you have is like a Orange Cassidy, a Danhausen. We're seeing more on the indie scene as well. We have people that are just like giant monster people, and we're seeing way more of obviously the this is my real name or this is my wrestling name and I'm just more or less a real person. But
yeah,
you're getting the limelights of, like I just said, the Orange Cassidy, the Danhausens, even the Megan Bain when it comes to GCW, she's absolutely killing it. And her character is just like, this Greek goddess. And so I
yeah,
think it's fantastic. So we're getting the sprinkles of it, and it's not just in everybody's got some working man gimmick.
yeah. That see, and it's kind of hard because I'm trying to get. So my whole thing is I was one of those kids who were raised. I watched TNA whenever it was TNA at the beginning.
Yeah.
WWE. I didn't really, if I'm being completely honest, I didn't know about the indie scene up until maybe, man, what, 2017?
Oh, wow.
And then I barely started learning about it. And then literally I went to because I mean, in Corpus, we have a Gulf Coast Wrestling Alliance. And
Right.
I went to a show, and that show just so happened to be Sammy Guevara's last indie show.
Oh,
And
nice.
before he faced Cody. And I went to that, and I was like, man, this is awesome. And one day I was following their page, and I saw that they were having wrestling tryouts. So I was like, you know what? Let me try it out. And I just fell in love with it. It took me back to my days of playing football. Being an athlete. So I was like, you know what? I fell in love with it.
Well, so you just kind of mentioned it. So you were, you said you're a power lifter and then you were, a football player. And then how did you decide, okay, pro wrestling is what I want to, really kind of get into and hang my hat on?
So I've always had that itch, especially as a kid, where I would, when you grow up, you're like, oh, I want to be this guy. I want to be like this guy.
Hmm.
Or, you do the whole wrestling moves with your brother and outside on the trampoline. And that's pretty much how it happened. And then I started going to shows, and what really got me as a kid was I got to meet Kurt Angle,
Mm.
and that was one of the coolest experience I think I've ever had. So it really made me look at as a young kid, I was kind of like, man, that's pretty cool. Like he just wrestled in a match, and then Kurt Angle was. I remember he was such a wholesome person.
Yeah.
He wrestled a match. Right after that, man, there was a line of people ready to take pictures with him, and I was like, man, that's so cool. That's all for one person. Like I want to do that one day, and then yeah, here I am now. And to me, it's crazy when people recognize me in public. I still get like, whoa, like you talking to me? Like,
Right. You're looking around like, they can't be talking to me. Like, there's got to be
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
Well, how long you been in the industry now?
So I trained for about maybe I trained for a good while before I actually had my first match. So I would say going on year two of matches and probably about year three altogether.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now, when it
Yeah, I
comes
feel like I got
to
into it a little later.
right, well, I mean, it all hits everybody at a different time. I mean, DDP didn't get into it till his mid 30s, but he's been a fan,
Yeah.
since forever. So when it came to, you're still obviously figuring out the character and who you are, which is, it seems like just an extension of yourself. Where are you picking up inspirations for what you can do and what you should? I mean, obviously you're wrestling a little bit of the big man style, but
Yeah.
how does all that been coming together?
Honestly, it's come together from guys who are out there right now, like
Mm,
Bronson Reed,
yeah,
uh Jacob Fatu. I actually got to see him wrestle, and it was crazy because from a year, how'd you say it? That so he wrestled down here in Corpus, and literally a month later, I started training, and exactly a year after he wrestled down here, I made my debut in Corpus,
oh wow,
and I told myself like, man, I'm gonna be like that guy one day. And a year later, there I was debuting in Corpus, and so I kind of look after him, Bronson Reed. Um, I even look at Brick Savage, and the crazy thing is, I actually got to wrestle him not too long ago.
that's awesome.
Um, so I just kind of look at the bigger guys who aren't scared to go out there and kind of show out, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
it's
not your
funny.
typical big man.
Yeah, like when I was talking earlier about, guys on the indie scene being like just monsters, I was thinking about Brick Savage, and he's all over Texas, and I love it, and he's getting more exposure, and he has just such a unique look to him. Like, yeah, he's a big man, and he's said it here on the show before, but he gets his inspirations from like monster movies. Like he wants
Yeah,
to just be the monster inside the ring, and that's exactly what he's doing.
yeah. See, and and it was cool because he gave me quite a bit of advice, on just the look and everything. And the crazy part about it is whenever I always had this kind of look what I wanted to do if I ever became a wrestler, and it's
Mhm.
like a total night and day from what I am now. It's crazy because my when I before I even started wrestling, I told myself I'm gonna kind of do like the Taz look when I come out, the towel
Oh,
over my head,
yeah.
try to intimidate the hell out of people. But then I was kind of like looking towards the dark side, kind of doing a little more of the dark wrestling, with the black contacts, black out my eyes, with the face paint, come out to, like intense music and yeah, I'm like totally 360 of that.
I mean, sometimes you have to do that. You got to figure out, obviously anytime you're going to get into it, you're going to think you're going to be this person, you want to do this, and then once you get out there and you're like, oh, never mind, yeah, I got to do the complete 180 of this, and it's just, you got to figure it out on your own. I mean, there's so many people that
Yeah,
continue to change their gimmicks as well. I mean, shit, look what Christian Cage has been able to do. Look what the Undertaker, yeah, he was the Undertaker forever, but he was also the biker Undertaker. He was,
yeah,
dead man Undertaker. He was this, that. I mean, the evolution. I mean, fuck, look what Chris Jericho's doing now. Like he continues to change, and that's what you need to do as a wrestler. So that way you're not getting stale to the fans. You're not getting stale to yourself either, because you